There's an interesting case about honour going on, or interesting two cases about honour going on in public life at the moment. The first is the story of Lucy Connolly, who's pleaded guilty to a tweet which was deeply foolish, inciting riot and inciting violence. And her husband, Raymond, is a councillor in Northampton, not far from where I live. And the question, of course, is should he resign? He's a Conservative councillor. Now his wife has admitted guilt and could well face a prison sentence. It's an appalling situation. A young family, and his wife has been very foolish. And then there's Jas Athwal, who's the MP for Ilford South, and he's got 15 properties which are managed by a company, and they are dirty and ant infested and in a disgraceful state. Should he resign? Well, in both cases, the people who are ultimately responsible, Lucy Connolly and Jas Athwal, have stood up and said, they've done wrong. But and in the case of Jas Athwal, he is the sitting MP. In the case of Lucy Connolly, she's simply married to a sitting councillor. And the question really is, at what point do people resign? Today, of course, people cling on as much as they can, as we saw from Priti Patel, as we saw from Dominic Raab sunning himself on the beach. And there doesn't seem to be that principle of honour in public life. But my own instinct is that in both these two cases, Jas Athwal is committed, I think, to changing the situation of the 15 properties that he has put out to rent, and Lucy Connolly has taken responsibility for what she did. And I think both these things have come as a great shock to both individuals. And probably that is about as far as it should go. There will be consequences, I'm sure. But I don't think either Jas Athwal should now resign his position as MP. He was elected. And I don't really think that Lucy Connolly's husband should be impacted by her stupidity. Should they have done what they did? No, of course not. But should we have mercy, sympathy for? There is a bit of me which thinks there, but for the grace of God, when if you are a landlord and you place your property in management, you expect it to be managed. And I suppose if Raymond Connolly is a Conservative councillor, he would expect his family to be more mindful on the internet. But you can't monitor every detail. And I think there's a point at which common sympathy comes into play. And certainly people in the past had a tendency to beat themselves up for these things and resign on the spur of the moment as a matter of honour. People now are more reluctant to resign, partly because, there's so much money involved and so much commitment involved. But also maybe the damage is done. The damage is done. And I think it's positive for an elected politician of any rank to be aware at first hand of the foibles of individuals. And I think these two individuals, Raymond Connolly and Jas Athwal, will be significantly more sympathetic to the problems of their respective constituents because of these two events. And I think that is a positive. That is a positive. And nobody is perfect. And it's our foibles and our errors which make us all the more amenable, I hope, and all the more understanding of the complexity of other people's lives. Our lives are not straightforward, and some people are very lucky, and they they cruise through life without crisis, and some people put their foot in it at every possible opportunity. And you can say it's their fault. Yes, maybe. But you go back to that wonderful scene in West Side Story about Officer Krupke and all those explanations for why the gang members are in such a mess. And you can keep going back and you can keep explaining it away. But in the end, it's not about an explanation. It's not about apportioning blame or punishment. It's about improving. And it's about starting from this point now and making life better. And using those awful experiences of the past to inform and to focus on change and to be more sympathetic to other people's failings.